Planet Rocks. I'm joined by Dan Hawkins of The Darkness, who are back with a brand new album. We will be talking about the rise, the fall, and the subsequent re-rise of the band. Dan Hawkins, welcome to My Planet Rocks. So, in the beginning, I guess it's different for obviously all siblings. Did you get into rock music through parents, osmosis, for your brother? How did that begin?
I guess it was osmosis, really. I think my dad in particular had really good music taste. My mum, appalling. Yeah. She's into Shaggy and stuff like that.
Really?
Oh, Carolina. I mean, she'll get drunk and start, she'll just grind anyone. Oh, Carolina.
Okay, well, that's the parental side of things sorted out. So, was it you or your brother who got into it first, or did you get each other into it, or how did that start? Because, I mean, I grew up with obviously a brother in the house who was into rock music. It was like, I kind of had to listen to Motorhead, and it was almost brainwashed into me.
He was straight out of the gate, completely into hard rock. And I guess I probably went a bit more for the alternative kind of side of things. Like, he was a real super tight jeaned, long haired rocker. He was the archetypal shirt off rocker.
Circa 1984 sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got it. Whereas I was probably a bit more, I don't know, a little bit more left field of that. Because I kind of I went down the alternative rock route. I mean, we still liked the same things that we both thought were great. But I mean, he learned to play guitar from a very early age, and I learned to play drums from a really early age. That was my primary instrument, really. When you're brothers and you both play an instrument, at some point you're going to end up in a band together. I'd been gigging as a bass player and a drummer, and I was in a thrash metal band that were doing all sorts of kind of old school stuff. It's quite funny, at the time I couldn't afford a double bass drum pedal or two bass drums, but I did have two bass drum pedals, so when it came to the double bass drum bits, I'd have to move my leg from the hi-hat over to the top.
That's what I used to do.
It's the most pathetic looking thing, and you keep knocking your snare drum as you move your leg down, and
double bass drumming on a budget, as I call it, at the age of 13.
And also, my dad's a builder, so my drum kit, basically, I couldn't afford a drum rack, so my dad built one out of scaffold poles. Right?
Well, some of them were scaffold poles.
Were they?
Yeah.
Really?
I
wasn't that far out then.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it was great, because it was really solid, but bloody going to a gig, I mean, it was a total
transit,
nightmare.
the rear wheel was a scraping.
Oh my God, yeah. It was like needed a separate car just for the scaffolding.
Because one of the songs you've chosen is a Metallica one, Sad But True.
Oh, yeah.
Why that one of their back catalogue?
Well, at the time when I was drumming, I remember that album coming out, and it was just like, suddenly, like, metal had really crossed over, and it was just sounded massive, and it was everywhere. And it was at that point when I don't know, as you do sometimes, you start kind of looking away from it and elsewhere. It becomes a bit too big for your own liking. I don't know, some people are like that. Maybe I'm just a bit fickle, but so I wasn't sure about whether I liked Metallica anymore. A total rock snob, I guess you call me. But so I listened to the album, and then I heard Sad But True, and I was like, oh my God, that is the biggest riff of all time, I think. It's my favourite heavy riff of all time.
All right, Sad But True, Metallica. It's My Planet Rocks. There'll be more from Dan Hawkins of The Darkness next. My Planet Rocks on Planet Rock. My guest today is Dan Hawkins of The Darkness. So you've reached, let's say, teenage years. How did going from drums lead to the formation of The Darkness?
Well, I've become an accomplished drummer, I'd say. A band that Justin was in at the time, a covers band. And they didn't have a bass player, or someone had dropped out, so my brother suggested me, and I hadn't really played much bass before, but I gave it a go and kind of picked it up, and I got the gig. I played bass right through to when I moved to London when I was 17.
Yeah.
And so when I moved to London as a bass player, looking for a band, to find my fame and fortune. Camden Lock of Broken Dreams. Exactly. Yeah. Actually, yeah. Many meetings in Camden, meeting bands, seeing what they were like, and not really going anywhere. And I finally met a band that I thought were pretty cool, and we played for a while. And then one day we were in the studio with a producer called Rick Knowles. It was like our big break, really. And I mean, we had like 2 days to do like 6 songs with this producer, and he'd flown in from America. Like, he was jet lagged, he was in a mood. We were all nervous, and and the guitarist just was spending hours on his guitar part. He couldn't get the most simple parts,
Yeah.
And at one point, I think the producer was going to just quit, and he had his head in his hand like this. And I just said to him, look, if you really want to get this done, I can do this in 1 take. And he was like, all right then. And so I did, and I did do it in 1 take. And the singer saw me do it in 1 take, and then fired the guitarist before he came back. And then that was it. I was playing guitar after that. But I mean, it sounds like I can just pick up an instrument and play it, but
it does. Yeah.
It's, I've just been around guitars all the time, so I've always played guitar more to work out how songs were written than to be a virtuoso guitarist. I always thought I'd be at the back of the room, just holding it down on the drum kit, massive gong, occasionally stand up to wave at the crowd, and then disappear back behind all my multitude of rototoms.
Technically, you still could. You could just sit on a chair as if you're like a school teacher.
I could have the amps in front of me and sit behind those.
Queen, obviously, you can tell from some of the Darkness stuff, obviously a big influence, and you've chosen a live track from Live Magic. Was that the classic Wembley Stadium gig?
Yes.
Why that one as opposed to the studio version?
I think that was the moment when I heard that song that I realised I wanted to be a professional musician. That exact song, and specifically Roger Taylor. I mean, coming back to this was at the time when I was a drummer, so I would have been about 9 or 10 at that point in time, and I may not have had a drum kit. It may have been a series of Roses tins.
Yeah.
With the lids. I used to have Roses tins, take the lids off, hang them in the wardrobe.
Yeah.
From there, and those were the cymbals.
Blimey.
Anyway, so for Christmas I was bought the tape cassette of Live Magic, and it was that track, and just the drumming on it, and just the energy, and it's just, this is it. I just like listening to that, looking at the picture of the helicopter over the massive crowd, thinking, this is what I want to do.
And in a way, and pretty much you did a few years later.
Yeah.
Hammer to Fall live. It's My Planet Rocks on Planet Rock. It's Planet Rock, it's My Planet Rocks, and my guest today is Dan Hawkins of The Darkness. So, you've had your rise and your fall, you've had Nan's funeral.
I've fallen.
I
think I've fallen.
Because you were doing the Space Gods thing, and a Hot Leg appeared, what was around 2008, because I remember seeing them with Extreme.
Yeah.
So then, what from these forks in the road, what brought The Darkness Phase 2 back together?
Well, I think it's just one of those things where he was in town, and I just thought, it's time to get the old olive branch out. And so I went down to see them play, said hi after the show, pleasantries really, and then went off really. And then he came to see Stone Gods when we played the 100 Club, and and that was kind of cool. He said, next time you're in London, give me a shout. I was in London for a meeting or something like that, and I had like a couple of hours, and I thought, well, this is weird to not go and see him while I'm in London. And so I phoned him up and said, yeah, come on round. So I went round, and his flat you basically walk through the front door, and there's just a massive mixing desk, and like guitars everywhere, keyboards and whatnot. He didn't have a lounge, it was just a studio basically. So we're just, he's in there, he's working on something. What do you think of this? I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Why don't you do this? Yeah, there was that thing of like, let's do this again. I missed this, and let's do it, but let's do it properly this time. Because we had quite a few problems within management, and the way things were. The business side of it was as riddled and rubbish. So it was like, let's do it properly and just set it up with people that we know are really good, and so on and so forth. And we said, yeah, let's do it. And then that was it really. And then it was just went to hell for leather.
So before we do the final part, pretty much up to now, again, you've got some classic influences. So we've covered AC/DC, we've covered Thin Lizzy, it wouldn't be complete without saying, something like Led Zepp.
Oh, yes, Led Zeppelin. Again, the one that really did it for me was the Battle of Evermore, and it was on a compilation tape that the Darkness had in our old tour van when we were kind of touring the land for the very first time. And for instance, I would be driving the tour bus, I say tour bus. This thing was a van that we borrowed from Justin's Christian friend. It had like a big Jesus in the middle. It had it was a really old sort of Volkswagen.
Yeah, it wasn't a bus at all, was it?
No, it wasn't. No. It was. We didn't even really have seats, but it's great. We had there were 3 cassettes in there. One was the best of Billy Idol. One was Stiff Upper Lip by AC/DC.
Oh.
And the other was a compilation that I'd made for the road, and I'd always put Battle of Evermore on when I was making my own compilations, about maybe 3 or 4 in. So once you kind of like hit them really hard, and then it's like that moment, like that ponderous moment, and it's it was designed to be once you've got out of London and greenery starts to appear. Yeah. That's when the Battle of Evermore will come on, and that's us kind of like travelling to lost. Is this still the A40, or have we, is this Birchanger Services yet? I really need a wee. But yeah, it was kind of like the we're off to battle.
But back to the classic stuff, the Battle of Evermore, Led Zeppelin. It's My Planet Rocks, it's Planet Rock. It's My Planet Rocks on Planet Rock. Joined today by Dan Hawkins of The Darkness. You're currently going through what I can only call a Spinal Tap moment. See, a quirky thing is I actually went to school with Emily Dolan Davis.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah, I was the year above her, so I've known her years. Now, I haven't spoken to her yet, but I thought the official line is other projects. Come on, what's the real reason? No one joins a band for a month. Come on, spill. What's going on there? What's the real reason?
I'll let Emily tell you. No, I can't do that to you. No, it's just one of those things. I think essentially she's basically been a session musician all of her life. It's the first band that she was going to join, and I just don't think it sort of hard to explain really. It just didn't quite fit right. And when you're committing to really long periods of time touring, I think you need to be right behind it, and there's a lot of things going on. She's got a lot of projects that she wants to do. I'm so glad that we met Emily, because we worked personally very closely together, and I don't think there's a better drummer for me. I'm sure it won't be the last time that her and I work together.
So what's the drum situation now? It is getting Spinal Tap.
Well, it's all been a bit last minute, to be fair. And it is very Spinal Tap. Yeah, Emily's just lucky she didn't blow up in a cloud of green smoke. Luckily, because it was all a bit last minute, we had someone fly in from Australia. He's a friend of a friend, my friend being Brian May's guitar tech, who suggested Rufus Taylor to us some time ago, actually. It was just after Emily got the gig. So when Emily left, that was the first person I thought of. So I found out whether he was busy, and obviously he's on the other side of the world. He's in Australia. Well, great. So I asked him if he was interested in playing a show in 4 days' time. I sent him the tracks. I think he got behind a drum kit in Australia for an hour, and then obviously he's on the 48-hour journey or whatever it is.
This is very Spinal Tap.
It's super Spinal Tap. Yeah. And he's drumming. He didn't sleep for the 2 days. He's had the songs on, tapping away on the, I really feel sorry for whoever's sitting like in front of him, because it must have been a nightmare. But and then came straight from the airport, and we ran through the songs a couple of times, and then went and did the show. It's unbelievable what he actually managed to achieve.
So, but is he the one, or is he just helping out for a bit, or what's the drum situation?
I think the job's his, really. I've learned in this Spinal Tap world that we're currently living in to expect the unexpected, but for the foreseeable future, he's our guy. Yeah.
2015, all is good. When next?
We're just trying to. This is basically the thing. As much as we like playing small venues, and it is exciting, I think. There are a lot of reasons why a Darkness show should be in a big venue rather than a small one.
Yeah.
Firstly, we won't bump into each other so much. And I think our music is designed for big places, you know.
Arena and stadium
big
music.
riffs,
Yeah.
massive drum sounds, etc., etc. And I think if we can get to the point where we can have really creative and fun productions, then we can take this thing forward and keep the sort of, I guess if you say the Kiss dream alive, you know. There's nothing more entertaining than watching blokes firing lasers out of their guitars.
Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming in. What shall we finish on and why?
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, this song is called Son of Mustang Ford by a band called Swerve Driver. And, like, the riffs are just amazing, really, and relentless. And they're kind of like the benchmark for me personally for how loud guitars should be on a record, you know, which is basically too loud. And yeah, it's interesting because the bass player A.D. Vines was my hero when I was a bass player, and then years later he would become my guitar tech, and still is to this day.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later in the year and for the decades to come if you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, it's the long haul, baby. One way ticket to
wherever.